Subject that's come up a lot with offshore wind that I was frankly surprised when I first started looking into it is whales. It's been a discussion with the New Jersey wind farms, the New York wind farms, which is my current focus. Recently, Virginia also had it. So, much to my surprise, here I am making a video on whales. Let's get right into it. The issue is that the northeastern right whale is an endangered species. Let's get out up front is that it is not endangered because of oil, and it is not endangered currently because of anything with offshore wind. So far, so good, right? The issue is, of course, that it is a very endangered species. Depending on the count, you're dealing with 400. In biological terms, it's already endangered just due to the potential of a genetic mishap or an unexpected natural event that could potentially wipe out the particular subspecies of right whale. Uh, Let me also say that in learning about right whales, that there are right whales in other parts of the world, and they are more numerous. But the one we're talking about here is its own distinct subspecies. So that's a general description of the problem. How we got here has a lot to do with whaling industry and history, which I will leave for you to read and learn about in plenty of other places. So, why does this have anything to do with offshore? Well, the reason it has to do with offshore wind is boat strikes, and that when you are in both in the process of installing offshore wind and the maintenance of said offshore wind once it is installed, there has been cited by those who, frankly, are just trying to slow down offshore wind that you are increasing the risk and danger of boat strikes to this endangered species. And since boat strikes are a significant issue, though it is left out of the discussion, a lot more has to do with net entanglements and ropes. But that is a potential issue. So the question really boils down to, is the potential risk to the right whale worth going with offshore wind? I'm going to say up front, my personal opinion is absolutely. I don't know why this is even being discussed at great length. My qualification to that is that doesn't mean that I am disregarding the potential dangers to the right whales, because a few whales lost is significant when you're dealing with such a small group of whales, and that is a risk. Um, I do make my judgment, and this is a judgment question. I don't think this whole issue is born down to just facts and figures, that the consequences of greenhouse gases and overall warming to the planet is going to be so severe to the natural world in general that the right whale is going to be endangered by that every bit as much as offshore wind, and that the issues that are currently plaguing the whale, if we're really serious about saving the right whales, has a lot more to do with netting and fishing practices. And if we're serious, that's a project unto itself, a worthy project, I do think. But it's also an example of a potential green on green dispute that I see happen from time to time. I would love to throw up lots of facts and figures on this particular subject, but this really does come down to a judgment call. And it's the same sort of debate, and it doesn't have to do with whales when you're dealing with trying to extend power lines in the Midwest and you're going to run it through a nature preserve. And the people who want to preserve the nature preserve are against it. And those who are trying to move wind power east are saying, are you serious? And I understand both sides of the equation. I think to some extent, what is missing from the climate activists' position is that there are consequences. You could come down, whether it's offshore wind, solar panels, nuclear, all the green sources of energy are not totally free. They come with their own consequences. And to deny them and say this your concern for nature shouldn't even be kind of enter into the discussion. Well, that's what got us here in the first place, right? So I find myself difficult to take a hard position on a lot of these. I actually am going to do one on the Florida Everglades where I'm going to pose the question that perhaps we should redirect the money spent to preserving the Everglades to putting in nuclear power, doing other things, since in 100 years the Everglades are going to be underwater anyhow. So, with that, as it relates specifically to offshore wind, I think the risk is small and worth taking, but it is there. And I don't think we should pretend it's not. So, next up on New York offshore wind, which does also, like I said, apply to Virginia and the other locations, we'll talk about politics. So, as you can see, a lot of our wind discussions have had very little to do with science and tech, and a lot to do with the issues that affect projects, politics, money, capacity, all of these things, which is why I say let's stop having the scientists involved on both sides and let's get down to business and talk about the hard work that climate projects involve. Talk to you all soon.